I now like to ask Commissioner Amy Price to lead us in a word of prayer. Bow your hands. Thank you, Lord, for these and our many blessings. Amen. Amen. Will everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll now call the roll. Dr. Purcell, please proceed.
Randall Bolden,
Here.
Charles Clinton,
Here.
Lynn Sherman,
Here.
Jody Singleton,
Here.
Timothy Guyer, here, Paul Kennedy,
Here.
Amy Price,
Here.
Larry Turner,
Here.
Stan Pilot,
Here.
Stan Nelson, Rod Scott.
Here.
We have a forum.
Thank you. Chair entertains a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any questions or comments? All in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, like sign. Agenda is approved. Everyone should have had a chance to review the minutes. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes as presented? Chair entertains a motion to approve the minutes as of March 11th, 2022. So moved.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve as presented. Any questions or comments? All in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, like sign. Minutes are approved. I'd first like to recognize a couple of presidents in the office. If you would please stand or wave your hand. Dr. Danny Long with Enterprise State Community College. Thank you, sir. We have also interim president for Athens State Community College, Dr. Wahlberg. Thank you. All right. As chairman, I am required to appoint a nominating committee to elect a new chair and a vice chair for the upcoming year, beginning October 1, 2023. I'd like to appoint commissioners Rod Scott, Timothy Guyan, and Jody Singleton. Right. I'd like to make a presentation for someone who has served this board graciously for several years. I'd like to ask Commissioner Pilot to stand, and I'd like to present a resolution for his service as commissioner since 2014. Coming out front? Oh, here?
Here? Yeah. Okay.
Okay, good deal. Thank you. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
I would also like to thank Dr. Killingsworth on behalf of all of the commissioners for graciously offering to host the September 8 commission meeting. The September meeting will be held on the campus of Jacksonville State University. I will now turn it over to Dr. Purcell for the executive director's report.
Good morning, Madam Chair. This is the summer. We actually have interns that work in our office. Arnisha Smith and DJ Harris worked for us last year. They graduated from high school. They're going off both to AUM in the fall. And then Tegan Cobble also worked for us last year. She spent her first year in Tuskegee in architecture and did quite well. So we're glad to have them back this year. We have a new research fellow for the summer. Deanna Goodwin is currently a PhD student at Auburn. And she actually works in Sylacauga, Commissioner Price. And she's got a background, and we've seen her do some presentations and stuff, so we're interested in having her do some work for us. Jessie Lynn Nichols, she is a resident of Prattville, and she comes with a big, varied background. She's working on her doctorate in career technical education at Auburn. She actually was Miss Rodeo USA last year. Jessie, wave to your wave. There you go. She knows how to do that. She spent the whole year traversing the country, but she has a great interest in adults, college in general and everything. So she has a big desire. She's helping us with the FAFSA completion. You know, we did a lot of work on that. we're gonna do is spend some time this summer identifying other federal aid which students who actually complete a FAFSA would qualify for and developing a mechanism to communicate them. So I think it'd be pretty exciting with that. Brett Thompson, he is actually from he is at Pittsburgh State University. He's not in the room, but he'll be starting with us later this year. They actually do the national javelin team actually does their training in Birmingham. And so he is here. He's interested in higher education or education leadership. And so he'll be helping us do some research projects up there. And the people at Jeff State have volunteered to help supervise him up there. I want to highlight Donna Nelson. You saw her speak at one of our board meetings about some research they were doing. We actually had legislation which expanded the scope of practice for licensed social workers, which will actually increase the potential for them to bill health insurance or Medicare, Medicaid, and actually have them have more of a living wage. So this is one of the things we do. And so Donna did a great job for us. We're excited about that, and she really got to get through it. I want to recognize too that this was an ecumenical type practice. We had Republicans and Democrats carry this through with us. So it's an exciting time to see democracy work at its best. And there we are at the signing. I went to Alabama State for a reception for Taraji Henson. She is very interested in mental health. Came to the campus. Alabama State was the first of the HBCUs to receive these pods, which are basically counseling centers that are subsidized by her foundation and another foundation. I can't remember the name, but they were all there. They designed this site to be really friendly and very positive, affirming to help students address those issues. Did some outreach. I went to Cleveland with Patrick Kelly to introduce to the nation the Education Workforce Needs Index, the new data. That went pretty well. Leadership Alabama, we speak to them every year, trying to make the new leaders of the state think like 8 people. That went okay. Redstone Arsenal, the same pilot, had us go to an event there to speak to their Rotary Club, a very informed group, so I had to feel my P's and Q's. Same thing in Jasper. Paul Kennedy, his group, spoke to them, and we had a good conversation about the things that we're doing follow-up work there, which may be exciting. You'll hear about later in the year. At this point, I want to talk about really workplace force development in Alabama and higher education, which has become more important right now. And a lot of it's based on the trends out there. So the chamber has said that we are in pretty bad shape. For every 44 available, we have 44 available workers for every 100 job openings. And that is a lot of competition. And we're one of the darkest of the blue states, which, you know, Alabama's not normally a blue state, but we're in dark blue when it comes to having the need for workers. So this is a big concern. We are in the most severe category. And really higher ed has a role to play. We had a nice editorial done here by staff at the community college system, really talk about their rapid skills development program. And really the community college has done a lot of work at different kind of things to help us address our worker shortages, especially as people who are underemployed or new opportunities come in the state. So this has been a new initiative. But also, you know, AIC and the university's been doing some things. As you know, we did the FAFSA completion project last year, and this is our results this year. So we actually, I think, ended up with like 8 more students filling out the FAFSA this year compared to last, which is actually a lot since we had less, about 1,000 less high school students. I sort of wanted to show you the maps. So this is 3-year progression. So this is before we did our FAFSA initiative. And you can see there were a lot of counties where there wasn't that much participation. Green is where the money is. So green is good. This is what we did after our intervention last year. And it was an amazing change for a lot of these counties. We had Barber County, which went very poor county, but only 25% of their kids actually filled out a FAFSA, which was just like they were destined to end up being casual labor for farmers or whatever in the region. And last year it went up to about 85%. Well, this year it went into the 90s. So think about kids and their destiny and their family's destiny And to me, this is the heartwarming part of our work, is to have an initiative that had a good intervention. We increased participation 30% last year, and we sustained that 30% increase over 2 years ago. So I'm pretty happy about that effort. We're worried about workers, so we've done a couple things, retain Alabama, recall Alabama. We talked about re-engage Alabama, and this year the legislature put money in a scholarship fund so we can spend $4.5 million on getting adults back into the workforce by having them complete either an associate or bachelor's. We've done a lot of work on the All in All Alabama campaign across the states. We saw you last. And some of the stuff we do is the statistic stuff, that we like. And one of them in these state regional reports, you have a copy to take home, or we will sign it if you want. The new improvements are, we've broken a lot of the information down by the sub-regions for all the regions. And there is a regional report that's specific to your region, but I wanted to highlight some things on the state report that are important. And I know this is microscopic for any of you watching on TV, because I can't see it either. Can I look? One of these, for a second. There's the degree and the correlation between wages and college degree. You can sort of see where Alabama is compared to that desired place, which is what the big circle means. And then on the next one, and Marcus, give me another click. There we go. And then the next one is the high labor force participation. You want to be in the circle and see how far of an outlier Alabama is. And then the next one is less reliance on public assistance. You don't want to have a lot of reliance. You can see Alabama's to the far right there. And then the last one is lower rates of poverty. And again, Alabama is an outlier with more poverty than some other states. So we're trying to do some comparisons to have us all understand that we are doing great work, but there is a lot more that we need to do and can do. The other thing that we've added is this bottom right corner for you, the board member, and that is in net migration. How many people from out of state that have credentials have moved in, what is their credential level, and how many have moved out? And we were able to do that by region and by state. We are a winner. We are a major recruiter. We have 1,000, maybe 1,500 more come in from the state with education than those that leave. So we are recruiting. The goal now is to try to keep some of our people that are already educated here, staying close to mama and making everybody happy. So the governor has this big target for us. We talked about this almost every board meeting, but here's the answer. We have produced 214,745 credentials over the last 4 years. So we're on our way toward that target, certainly more to do, but we do sort of quantify that, and that's making us think about those kind of things. The other thing to think about is it's all about how automation is going to change the world. And Alabama, 2/3 of our county are going to have more than 25% job displacement in there over between now and 2030. So the world is changing very fast. And even after this report was written, some other things have happened. And it's all about this automation. And actually, they announced in the paper yesterday that they opened up this company that's in Alabama, that's in Montgomery County. That's what they do is they help automate agriculture. So even agriculture is being heavily automated, and this is all this company does. Their corporate office now is in Montgomery, and they've been around for 100 years in different places. But one of the concerns is that the men folk have decided that, nah, I don't want to participate in the modern age. So they're hanging at the house, and it's causing some problems. We've done a lot of efforts. Some states are just responding to this sort of in odd ways. It's sort of like the immediate need, but we're really not addressing what we in education need to do, which is we need to produce the right people for the right jobs for our states. So in Alabama, starting this year, they will not be taxing overtime. So if you have a worker that's an hourly worker that gets overtime, they will not be taxed on the 41 to whatever hour, which is an exciting, innovative thing. But what it does is it puts pressure on the people that have the skill sets we want, and we work them to death. Does that make sense? And we understand why we have to do it now, but to me, it isn't the ideal solution. The other one, Mississippi now has a legislation proposed to have retirees to work without impacting their pension if they have a state pension. it will not be impacted if they work over the minimum of the amount. Adjusting child worker rules, Arkansas reduced that from 16 to age 14 because they're short of workers. There's a similar bill, I think in Wisconsin or Michigan. I always get those Yankee states confused. In one of those states, there was concern about it was opening up to allow 14-year-olds to work in bars and restaurants that have hard liquor. So that one may not make it up north. But anyway, so Arkansas, it did pass. So we are trying to address our shortage, but we're doing it in ways that show the level of desperation we have. We're doing a lot more non-credit to train immediate need, which I think is needed at some points, but I think all of us in the higher ed community need to know that the first job is not the last job, and it's not the last skill set you need, and we need to build all of our systems out so that we can train people on stackable credentials. We need to have those things be a credit, either award credit for that non-credit stuff when they return, or make the non-credit training incredible while they take it. Just takes a little bit more effort. The other one is relaxing job requirements. Virginia just said, the heck with everybody in the Virginia government to have a bachelor's degree. They have changed 90% of all the jobs required a bachelor's in Virginia to have, just now say preferred, because they have such a shortage of finding workers in Virginia to work in state government. And then we are trying to make sure that we get everybody with the skill sets. We are now, the federal government is allowing the prisoners again to qualify for FAFSA. They had done that experimental for a year or two. And that'll allow us to hopefully have people that are skilled and may not go back and work in the crime sector and do things good. So, but none of those approaches are a long-term fix. So to me, the long-term fix is for us in the room to think about how we develop rapid work and program changes to address rapid economic and social change. Artificial intelligence has been in the news like crazy. Everybody's replacing workers with that. Even the big guys we all follow to see what they're buying in the stock market have compared this to an atom bomb. Warren Buffett, of course, somebody we all worship. So I said, I got to see how this works. So this is going to be a demonstration of ChatGPT. Have any of y'all in the audience use ChatGPT? Yes. Well, to me, this is how important it is, because, you know, that's what I do. I convene faculty and staff. I gotta try to get their opinions on things. But what I've discovered since I've been using it for the last 2 weeks is I can just ask this one computer and it gives me all the answers, the entire world time report, which is in a nice format. Now, I want to show you what it said, and then we need to think about how we should apply it in education. So the first question I asked GPT is, how do you think artificial intelligence is going to change the way colleges and universities do work? And it says personalized learning, intelligent tutoring, administrative efficiency, data analytics, thinking about it, smart campus, research and innovation, what would you do there, lifelong learning. And it just says, hey, you know, it's self-promoting. It promotes numerous opportunities for improving the function. But that's something that I would have gotten after 3 weeks of discussion with all you guys. You know, it would have been probably the same thing for sure. But to get an idea of what we should be doing is a very instant gratification for those of us that like instant gratification. And I know there's others out there that are instant gratifiers too. The other one I asked them is, how should colleges and universities respond? So the first one's sort of more about academics, and this one is more about administering it. How should we respond? And the answer is curriculum integration. And this is actually filmed interdisciplinary approaches, more disciplinary programs, research and development, invest in those kind of things. Have partnerships with AI businesses. Ethical implications, what are the rules about it? Upskilling our staff and altering our infrastructure and collaborating with the AI industry and community outreach and awareness. So that's a good little template for us to all think about how we should, the institutions should respond. And then future-proofing education, because after all, AI is the future. The next one, about that time, I started getting that headache. So I decided, well, I have a headache. What do you recommend I should do? I'm not a doctor. Commissioner Price, this will be good, lower the cost of healthcare. Sure. Boy, triggers, no more chat GPT for today. So anyway, it actually was clever. Now, we did parallel this with one of the other ones. I can't remember the name. Kristen, what was the name? Bard. Bard, yeah. And so Bard answered it. Bard is sort of it's got guide rails on it. So it won't say something. It'll say, I'm not a doctor, period. ChatGPT will give you an answer, even if it's something it shouldn't do. Like I asked it, I need a will, Bill, use Alabama law. ChatGPT spelled it out. Here's the template for Alabama law will. Here it is, it's standard. Just fill in the blanks. The other one said, I'm not a lawyer and you should consult a lawyer. So you see the difference? They're all built with different logic patterns. So you have to pick which one you want to be. I did find ChatGPT to be more woke than the other one because I asked it woke questions. And it was interesting to see the differences between a computer responding to a different thing. So anyway, last, I just need to entertain myself, so I asked ChatGPT to write a song about Alabama. In the heart of Alabama, where the sun grows bright, there's a place called Alabama where dreams take flight from the hills to every face. So anyway, it goes on and on. It talks about Birmingham, Mobile, Huntsville, Muscle Shoals, Tuscaloosa, Auburn, their loyalties, if the computer knows about our weird competitions between these places, all this kind of stuff. It has a chorus, and that was done like in that time, which is pretty impressive, except when I shared it to the people from Huntsville, they very quickly noticed that Huntsville was omitted totally from the discussion. But as you have ever heard from people in Huntsville, they don't think that people down south of Alabama actually think they exist or are part of the state. So they never get any money from the legislature anyway. So anyway, this one is just has not thought about Huntsville actually being a part of Alabama. Well, to me, where we are, folks, is something, there's a book called Lessons of History where the guy, Will and Ariel Durant wrote a 7-edition thing with the history of the world, and it's like this big, it's 7 big journals. But he was smart enough to know that somebody else writing the Cliff Notes would get it wrong. And so after he wrote all this, he wrote a 135-page Cliff Notes book about what he said, which I thought was just clever. Anyway, I read that book instead of having to read the whole thing myself. But there's a quote in there which I think really applies to that. This one of our discouraging discoveries of this disillusioning century is that science is neutral. It will kill for us as readily as it will heal, and will destroy us more readily than it can build. How inadequate now seems the motto of Francis Bacon, that knowledge is power. Sometimes we feel that the Middle Ages and the Renaissance, which stressed mythology and art rather than science and power, may have been wiser than we, who repeatedly enlarge our instrumentalities without improving our purposes. And I think that's where we are. We're going to have to have good conversations about this kind of activities. And Chair Frost and I really talked about this earlier this week, and we're going to try to have an event that correct in Huntsville with hopefully some of the smart folks there. Because it's out of state, we could get it better for the you go out of state. And people from higher ed to have a conversation about how higher ed should respond to artificial intelligence. Maybe give them the guidebook that we got from AI and let them modify it for the better. But with that, I think that's our charge for the future.
Thank you, Dr. Purcell. We certainly are embracing artificial intelligence in Huntsville with the defense industry in which I work. And certainly that's something that we should all be looking forward to because it is here to stay. So thank you. Next, we have Mrs. Gunter, who will present the latest legislative updates.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioners, it was a banner year for the legislature. Everyone walked away a winner. We had debt reduction, a new savings account started. Tax rebates are coming back to tax filers for 2021. The budgets were tremendous. They came into session on the 7th of March and immediately went into special session to decide how to distribute the $1.1 billion that will be the last of the federal COVID money. The majority of that money went to improving the infrastructure, sewer and water, and broadband expansion, and the remainder of those funds went to healthcare. Then it was down to work where, check out this budget. The governor says, I have said it before, I'm going to say it again, our students' education is our primary responsibility and dedication in the state, $8.8 billion in the education budget. And that's not all, there was supplemental money, but look at this, over 5% increase for community college system, over 6%, universities getting over 7%, and a 2% pay raise for teachers and state employees. And moving on to the supplemental, the new supplemental items, I want to point out too, the National Guard program. This is the educational assistance program that flows through AIC. We administer those funds. A couple of years ago, we actually had a shortage when it came to summertime, so we had to quickly get a supplemental funding issue for that. So now they have funded it, so there will be no break in service for these guardsmen. They'll be able to continue on this summer with their education. The other, you see that big $15 million price tag there for outcomes-based funding for the four-year institutions. Work had begun on that a few years ago. AIC was represented. We had representatives from all of our four-year campuses. We worked with the Legislative Services Agency and HCM strategists developing a performance measure funding. Then the pandemic hit. So it was to be implemented that year. So work had to halt. But now it's coming back. The funding is there, and they're going to revisit those metrics and look at exactly what we need to do to put in performance funding for this, the institutions. AIC will be heavily involved. We will be disseminating information to the campuses as well as allocating the funding. Deferred maintenance, they didn't miss out either. This is the third year in a row the legislature has addressed deferred maintenance on our campuses. $5 million in supplemental funding and $5 million in the regular budget. All of that money will go for the HBCU campuses. You will be hearing HBCU campus presidents from us later on this year, or later on this month, I should say, with some more details about the application process. Now, we will be giving priority status to health, safety, and ADA compliance. Educational Opportunities Reserve Fund. Well, we did have unprecedented revenue streams coming in this year. That fund is going to be set up, it's going to cap. You know, when there's a lot of money, Representative Scott, you can attest to this, when there's a lot of money, there are a lot of hands wanting to get it. So they're trying to now limit the amount that will be funded each year. It will kind of give them a better idea of how to continue the growth and expansion of several educational programs that are already in place, such as the Literacy Alliance and the Numeracy Alliance. College affordability. Let me say, every year we start this discussion. We gather in Dr. Purcell's office and talk about what are we going to ask the legislature to do this year. And the first thing he says, what are the best things that we can do for our students? Student success is the marching theme of this agency. We work with the campuses to make sure that their students have what they need, what the campuses need. So what do they need to start with? Well, money comes up every time. I want you to look at these increases up there. Triple digits. The student grant program is the need-based program. The Student Assistance Alabama Grant Program, that goes to the private institutions for students who are wanting to attend school there, and the National Guard Program. Those three programs alone, 193.7% increase since 2017, when Dr. Purcell arrived. So from that period to 2022, we have helped 83,000 students help pay for their college. Pretty impressive. And you know, once you're paying for it, you really need to plan what you're going to do when you get there. So this year, the legislature passed the Students' Right to Know Act of 2023. This will create here at AIC a Student Horizon database It will be an interactive tool for students to go on and to look and see, what are the opportunities out there? What do I want to study? And once I get that degree, how am I going to use it? What are the opportunities out there? Dr. Purcell has outlined, we have a lot of opportunities out there. We just need to make sure that our people, our students who are coming out of college with a degree, whether it's an associate, whether it's a bachelor degree, that they are ready to go to work to fill these. You know, he talked about re-engage earlier in the All in Alabama campaign. And yes, we have now kind of the third leg to the stool. We started this looking at how do we keep students in the state. Those were the marching orders that came to us from across the street on the hill. We need to keep these students here. We're graduating them. Our schools are doing a wonderful job. They're leaving us. We need to not only bring them in for school, but we need to keep them here to sustain and to grow our economy. This is what we've done. We have worked tirelessly on the All in Alabama campaign with keeping them here. Then we added a second component, recall. These are the ones who were educated in Alabama, but they, as Dr. Purcell says, they wandered off. Well, he wandered back, so we need to get them to wander back to fulfill the job opportunities that we have here. And then re-engage, the legislature said, okay, give us more ideas. So we came up with this $4.5 million. This will be student assistance for adults who have some college, but they did not, for whatever reason, stop outs, family issues, life goes on, but they want to go back to school and complete either an associate or a bachelor degree. So that money is going to be available for those individuals. Credentials and the workforce. This is looking at, we have an appointment to a board, the Alabama Credential Quality and Transparency Act. It created the Alabama Workforce Council Committee. This will allow, and also Atlas, this will allow agencies to exchange data and information among themselves. Well, earlier, like that last month, the governor signed into law this No Transgender Athletes in College Sports bill. If you remember, last year, I stood here and told you about this bill that was passed that pertained to K-12. So now it is with higher ed, but let me say, on a national level, it passed the House recently, the same bill, but it was a very narrow margin. 219 to 203 was the vote count. It's now in the Senate, the U.S. Senate, but it stalled. Alabama has joined 20 other states in making this legislation law. But right after this came about, and there was a lot of discussion over the State House, I got a call from a reporter. And Dr. Purcell and I talked about, we felt like this was going to go through, but you've got to look beyond this is law, the federal ramifications. And that's where it is right now in Washington. What will this do as far as Title IX? And only time will tell. We don't know what it will do as far as the federal money that we have been dependent on in the past. Distressed institutions of higher education. Well, this bill traveled across the street and then it traveled back. The governor put some amendments on it. As you recall, this came about, Birmingham Southern recently said that they were in financial distress. The governor's amendment said that the state is going to charge interest to borrowing institutions. It also is going to require borrowers to submit a written financial restructuring plan to the state before they get any state loan funds. Okay, here it comes. Money in your pocket, rebates. Took them 4 times to get it. With the House version, Senate version, the governor's version. But finally they got together. You're going to be getting back 2021 tax filers, $150 individual, or $300 if you file jointly. Grocery tax. Now keep in mind, a lot of these taxes, they're going to be looking very closely at revenue. So look for a 1% reduction starting in September, and then the following, it's going to be cut in half, 4% to 2%. But again, depending, and look at the wording in the bill, if the education trust fund revenue is estimated to increase 3.5% above the previous year. And overtime pay, Dr. Purcell mentioned, with overtime pay, workers' overtime pay will be exempt from state income taxes. In fact, That was another one that traveled across the street and back. The governor put some amendments on that. She removed the $25 million cap. Now this will sunset unless lawmakers approve extending it before the deadline. Well, that wraps up, what we've got as far as the legislative session went. In fact, Commissioner Singleton asked me before the meeting started, he said, how do you feel? And I said, well, you know, there's money all around. And I said, but wait, there's a caveat. There's never enough money for education. So we'll see going forward what we have. Again, the federal money, it's gone. They spent the last of that this go round. They sign-died on Tuesday, but not to fear, they will be back. The Supreme Court yesterday overturned our redistricting plan, and that's gonna affect 7 congressional seats in Alabama. You know, we vote, March the 5th, I think it is, of next year. But those ballots have got to be in place. The GOP is going to have their meeting. I think it's September, November is the deadline. So they'll be back to have to redraw district lines. Madam Chair, that's in a nutshell, a wrap up of what all happened on the Hill this session. I'll be happy to answer any questions, any comments.
Thank you, Mrs. Dutcher.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna miss you.
Thank you, we appreciate that very thorough update. Our first decision item A, each decision item will be voted on individually. Any questions may be directed to the staff presenter. Our first decision item A has 3 preliminary approval of amendments to the administrative procedure. Will be voted on separately as they are presented by Dr. McGill.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. I'm excited to bring these amendments forward to you. We've got 3 coming, and we'll do each in order. The commission has already given quite a bit of its time and input into thinking about these through the work we've done on the Academic Affairs Committee chaired by Commissioner Turner. And I know he wanted to say a few words before we go into the details.
Thank you, Dr. Gill. Just very briefly, I want to say thank you to 3 of our other colleagues here that served, Commissioner Bunton, Guyan, and Sermon all served on this. And I believe in the total scheme, we're 1/3 through. I believe that's sort of where we look. But I have to say this, a huge thank you to Dr. McGill, all of her staff, Dr. Purcell, Ms. White, anybody that has worked with this. And if you want to recognize any of your staff, this is the thing I think that the 4 of us saw in those meetings. I had no clue. The regulations, the procedures, all these we get every time to approve, it's just sort of is routine. But fellow commissioners, there is an absolute ton of work behind that. And the thing that impressed me so much is I think our staff's pretty busy. They have full-time jobs already. And all of this, these procedure changes was all lumped on them to do. And for the first third, they've just done a monumental job. And I think the thing that impressed me is the knowledge that our staff has to have to process all of these proposals, the input they've already received from higher ed institutions. And so I just can't thank you enough, Dr. McGill, for what you and your staff has done. And please know the pages you're going to see here represents untold hours of work and diligence. And I think the 4 of us on that committee saw that quickly. And we've approved it, and I hope certainly the whole commission will as well. But thank you for all you've done.
Yeah, and I did want to also note that the institutions have given a lot of their time in considering these proposed changes as well. We've been holding open forums on different provisions since last summer. Commissioner Turner just mentioned that we're 1/3 of the way through, and what I think he meant was we're considering changes to 9 different sections of the procedures, and today we're going to consider 3. But these are 3 of the biggest links. So we may actually be further than 1/3 of the way through. But these are ones that we have heard quite a bit of feedback from our institutional partners on related to the need for these changes. Primarily, they are coming from a need to streamline, provide some clarity and structure, and provide a new pathway for them to raise their instructional role should they want to offer degrees at a higher level. So we'll go through them in order, and I'll give you a little bit of the detail on these. All right, so your first set of proposed updates, as Chairman Bolden mentioned, is 300-2103. That is called the Evaluation and Review of New Instructional Program Proposals of Public Post-Secondary Institutions. And this is the section of the administrative procedures that governs all of the new program proposals that come forward. And we've got quite a few to look at today. So this section and changes to this section won't necessarily affect what happens during the commission meetings, but they will have quite a bit of impact on how the institutions are going to submit information to us and hopefully make it much easier for them. One of the biggest changes is getting rid of what we call the NISP, the Notification of Intent to Submit a Proposal. There's a bureaucratic name, if I ever heard one. But the idea was that before a full proposal came forward, institutions would notify 2 months in advance so everybody would know it was coming. And what we found over the past few years is that the demands from business and industry have gotten much more just in time. They need programs to come forward more quickly, and that 2 month waiting period between the NISP and the proposal was slowing things down. The community colleges already had an exception to that for programs that were industry related, and so really we're talking about extending that provision to our 4-year institutions as well, and basically streamlining the process. So they only submit one set of paperwork to us, and that will, like I said, not really affect how the program proposals come forward to you all as commissioners to consider. As I mentioned, we have several open forums on this. We also solicited feedback from the peer stakeholder groups. So namely the graduate proposals are also reviewed by the deans, Alabama Council of Graduate Deans, there we go, ACGD. And the baccalaureate proposals are reviewed by the Council of Chief Academic Officers. The associate level proposals are reviewed by ACCS. And we simplified some of the language about those review processes, basically to make it more flexible for those bodies to review. We didn't need to say exactly how the steps would go. The last important thing here is when an institution wants to bring a higher level proposal. So they're a master's granting institution and they want a doctoral degree. And we've heard a couple of these recently, I think most recently from Jacksonville State brought forward their EdT. And there had been a set of guidelines that the commission approved, I think it was back in 2015, that included language about strategic benefits, which is a higher level of scrutiny than your typical program review. They have to meet certain criteria around duplication and industry need and unique benefits to the state. And so the provisions that are included in this proposed change are basically codifying what was in those guidelines into the regulations, so it's clear and doesn't need to be renewed, or I guess it was renewed every 5 years in the past. All right, so all of that information, staff is recommending approval of the proposed updates for the chapter 300-2103.
Thank you. Chair entertains a motion to approve the staff recommendation for the preliminary approval of the amendments to the Administrative Procedures, Section 300-2103.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve. Are there any questions or comments? All in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, like sign. The preliminary approval of the amendments are approved. Second administrative procedure for approval will be the amendments to the Administrative Procedures for Academic Programs Review, 300-2104.
All right, thank you, Chairman Bolden. Chapter 300-2104, immediately following the one we just talked about, has to do with how the commission treats programs when they are being reviewed. So right now, the policy has the title Operational Policy on approval, disapproval, deferral, and withdrawal of new programs of instruction. And it kind of includes a little bit of information in there on post-implementation conditions, which we obviously spend a lot of time on during meetings. But we are proposing updates to this chapter to really bring into the regulations the practices that we already do. So this means adding post-implementation conditions for new enrollments, for graduates, for reporting, or when there's specialized accreditation, for considerations around funding, or the ways that program might draw graduates from another program. And so, again, this will not really change how the commission is going to receive the information from the institutions. And it's really intended to provide the structure and clarity that we have evolved into and put it into our regulations. It won't really change any of the timeframes, but it will change the title. So going through approval, disapproval, deferral, withdrawal, we wanted to make the title more reflective of what the regulations actually would consider, and change the title to operational policy on the approval of new programs of instruction and requirements for post-implementation knowledge. And that will be more clear and people can know where to go to see the regulations. All right, with that, staff is recommending approval of the proposed amendments.
Thank you. Chair entertains a motion to approve the staff recommendation for the preliminary approval of the amendments to the Administrative Procedures, section 300-2104.
So second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve. Are there any questions or comments? All in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, like sign. The preliminary approval of the amendments approved. The third administrative procedure for approval will be the addition of new section of the Administrative Procedures for Academic Program Review, 300-21XX.
Yes, because we'll give it the number once it's fully approved.
Okay,
Thank you, Chairman. So this proposed new section would deal with instructional role and changes to units of instruction. So right now, instructional role changes, so that would be moving from a master's institution to a doctoral, or from a bachelor's institution to a master's granting. These are all dealt with through that same guidelines document that I mentioned before, which had the strategic benefit for single programs in it, and that had to be renewed. It also is sort of outdated, and it is not clearly distinguishing the different kinds of doctoral degrees that are offered in the way that fields have evolved into more practice-focused doctorates. So the proposal is to bring some of those changes from the guidelines and enhance them with further definitions, put them into the regulations so that there is a clear path for institutions in terms of adjusting their instructional role. We're also proposing to take sections that deal with units of instruction. So these are your departments, divisions, colleges, and schools within the institution that offer academic programs, including some public service and research programs. These were all dealt with in extensions and alterations, and it made more sense to bring them into this overall instructional role section. So the new section has been discussed at length with our stakeholders, in particular the ACGD, the group of graduate deans, because many of the instructional role changes would have institutions coming into a graduate role or changing their graduate role. And so we wanted to make sure the deans were on board with how that would work. We've gotten some very good feedback from everyone and feel pretty confident about how we want to move forward. So just as a quick overview, the instructional role previously was based on a matrix. It was very complicated. It had to do with specific fields and then the level of degree in each field. And every institution had one of these tables with X's in different fields. We are proposing to simplify that, which is more in line with how the Accreditation Commission reviews institutional role. and simplify it just to the degrees that are offered. So associate granting, bachelor's granting, master's. The intervention that is perhaps the most significant and we had the most discussion on was about that doctoral change. So AIC is proposing to distinguish between a practice-focused doctoral role, which is similar, I mentioned before, when Jacksonville State brought their program from the ND, that would be considered a practice-focused doctorate. The other role, which seems to be more in line with the way the regulations spoke about doctoral role, would be the research-focused doctorate, meaning your PhDs, where you're expected to bring in significant amounts of external research funding, potentially moving toward a research 1 or research 2 status with the Carnegie classification. And the previous regulations kind of hinted that they meant research doctorates, but we wanted to go ahead and codify that. I will note that there's one institution who is seeking to bring forward an instructional role change as a doctorate institution that has a combination of research and practice doctorates, because they were planning their instructional role change under the old regulations. It was the consensus of the Academic Affairs Committee and also of the institutional representatives who gave feedback that that institution should still be able to move forward as planned. So you may be hearing from them at the September meeting, but we'll keep you posted as the paperwork comes through. But with that one institution kind of, following a process on their own, there was general approval for the regulations that are presented here. And staff is recommending approval of them by the commission.
Thank you. Chair entertains a motion to approve the staff recommendation for the preliminary approval of the addition of a new section to the administrative procedures, section 302.1 XX. We have a motion. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion.
Second.
Thank you. We have a second. All in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, like sign. Preliminary approval of the amendments approved.
Thank you, Dr. McGill.
Thank you, thank you. The next decision, item B, academic programs, will be also presented by Dr. McGill. The first program will be from Alabama State University, Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering.
Thank you, Chairman Golden. Alabama State University has proposed a new Bachelor of Science program in mechanical engineering. This is an exciting potential addition for them. They already have a BS in biomedical engineering that was approved in 2014. So this would be the second engineering program offered at Alabama State. They're looking to create a school of engineering, combining those two programs that would seek specialized accreditation through the Accreditation Board for Engineering and Technology, which is kind of the gold standard ABET. And so we put a post-implementation condition that they would make, demonstrate progress toward that accreditation. But this is an expensive program. It's highly sought after in industry to have more mechanical engineers. We have quite a few programs in the state already, but the other institutions have already offered to collaborate with ASU on doing their accreditation paperwork and sharing some of the contacts in industry. And so there is a general agreement that another mechanical engineering program is something that the state would want to bring forward. With that in mind, Alabama State is committing, as you can see in their business plan, almost $3 million of their own internal funding to support the program. I think that gives you a sense of the institutional commitment that they have, and also how they see this as a growth path for their institutional mission, and raising their profile across the state and the region. Because of the high cost of the program, AIC has put, or is recommending, an extra post-implementation condition that they submit an interim report once the program starts producing graduates, which is in academic year 26-27. So we want to know that it's on track, that the costs haven't overrun, that everything hopefully will be headed towards self-sustaining by the end of the post-implementation period. As you can imagine, the costs have to do with bringing on new faculty, staff for overseeing the program, equipment, facilities, library, and accreditation. With the potential growth and impact of the program, staff is recommending approval.
Thank you. Chair entertains a motion to approve the staff recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any questions or comments? All in favor of approving, say aye. And all opposed, like sign. Program is approved. The next program presented by Dr. McGill will be from Athens State University, Master of Education in Training and Development.
Thank you, Chairman. And there are representatives from Athens State here and who could answer questions, should there be any. The second program to present to you today is the Master of Education in Training and Development. It's important to know this is a non-certification program, so it is not intended for teachers in the K-12 classroom to get another class of teaching certificate. It may be available to them to get higher pay. Pay is often tied to the level of degree you have. But the primary audience for this is going to be individuals who are looking to teach in community colleges, or who are teaching in corporate space, or who are supporting education in a nonprofit sector. There are quite a few letters of support. Most of them are from area community colleges, so I think that gives you a sense of where the primary recipients of these graduates will become faculty at community colleges. There are modest expenditures for new faculty or for an overload of existing faculty. But by and large, the coursework is already in place through 2 graduate certificates that were approved recently in training and development and online teaching. We did think that there could be some potential for drawing enrollments away from the Master of Education in Career and Technical Education. And so we've placed that extra condition to watch the viability of that other program. The program as it is considered, students will choose 2 concentrations out of 4. Those 4 are leadership, human performance, instructional systems, and design and media development. With that, staff is recommending approval of the program.
Thank you. Chair entertains a motion to approve the staff recommendation.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any questions or comments? All in favor of approving, say aye. And all opposed, like sign. The program is approved. The second program from Athens State University, presented by Dr. McGill, will be the Master of Fine Arts in Integrative Design.
Thank you. Master of Fine Arts and Integrative Design, as you all heard me talk about before, the MFA is the terminal degree in the field of fine arts. So this proposed degree, should it go through, would qualify individuals to teach at the university level and would also recognize their high artistic ability within the field of fine arts. Athens State is proposing to bring forward this MFA in integrative design that reflects that there would be 3 concentrations and individuals would choose the 3. And those are ceramics, media and visual arts, and painting and drawing. And one of the main reasons that the institution is eager to bring forward this program has to do with the facilities in which they offer these concentrations, which are housed at the Alabama Center for the Arts, ACA, which is in Decatur, Alabama, currently building dorm that would support the ACA for both students at Calhoun Community College and at Athens State, including artists and residents for this particular program. They have 44,000 square feet of state-of-the-art studio space. And so the MFA program would allow them to utilize that space at the highest level and also continue to contribute to their mission of community arts and be partners within the Decatur area and larger North Alabama area. They have quite a few letters of support from the Foundation for the Center of the Arts, Museum of Natural Sciences, and other community members. We will say that this proposal appears to you in a substantially revised version from how it originally came to about a year and a half ago. Athens State has had some exciting new leadership developments within their College of Arts. They've had a new dean who is eager to shepherd this through the specialized accreditation process. That means they've also, narrowed some of the focus of the program to just these three concentrations. And generally tightened it up to respond to some of the feedback they received from the Alabama Council on Graduate Deans, from their peer institutions who felt that there were certain things that needed to be in place. In terms of extra conditions, we did recommend that an extra condition be placed for accreditation through the National Association of Schools of Accredited Design, which is that gold standard for the field of fine arts. Athens State is currently proceeding through the process of getting specialized accreditation for their Bachelor of Fine Arts, which was approved by the commission, I think, 2 or 3 years ago. They have had a Bachelor of Arts for quite a while. So the MFA would be the next step in growing the profile of their art offerings. And with that, staff is recommending approval of the program.
Thank you, Dr. McGill. Chair entertains a motion to approve the staff recommendation.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any questions or comments? All in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, like sign. Program is approved. Our next program presented by Dr. McGill will be from Auburn University, Bachelor of Science in Public and One Health.
Thank you, Chairman. And I also found myself thinking, this title is Public and One Health. Yes. But I found as we were digging into it, that this is perhaps one of the more exciting programs that we've seen in the way that it is blending or proposing to blend together public health that focuses on human health, but also recognizing the interdependence with environmental science and the health of the environment, and also animals. As you all know, Auburn is one of our land grant institutions, and so they have fields of, or schools of agriculture, animal sciences, forestry, and veterinary medicine that would all be contributing to this proposed degree program, which would be the first of its kind at the undergraduate level. Auburn currently offers a graduate certificate in One Health through its School of Forestry. And in addition, the College of Vet Med, which is where this program would be based, offers a public health minor. And I was talking to the program folks just before the meeting, and they said, oh yeah, the minor already enrolls over 100 students a year. And so there is certainly enough student demand to bring that forward to a standalone program. And there are proposed new expenditures for 2 additional full-time faculty and 1 additional staff member, plus some graduate assistantships for the graduate program to teach some of the intro courses to undergraduates. There is a work-based learning component through a community service learning course that would be around conserving needs in public health. And with all of this exciting development, staff is recommending approval of the program.
Thank you. Chair entertains a motion to approve the staff recommendation.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Are there any questions or comments? All in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, like sign. The program is approved. The next program presented by Dr. McGill will be from the University of Alabama, Bachelor of Arts in Applied Liberal Arts and Sciences.
Thank you, Chairman. So this is a unique interdisciplinary program. You can see it's called Applied Arts and Sciences. We do see these in a couple of other institutions, but it's different from offerings you would typically see at the University of Alabama insofar as they are not imagining that they will be recruiting for this program. They're not seeking to draw graduates from other programs in interdisciplinary or integrative studies. This is really for students who are experiencing some risk factors in progressing. And we would consider this potentially a dropout immersion program. The way that it's structured is in keeping with accreditation guidelines that students have to have 36 hours of upper division coursework. But this program arranges that into 2 minor areas And that leaves room for our electives and also, allows for students to continue to progress toward graduation. Since it won't be competing with existing programs, we are not expecting any need for additional post-implementation requirements. There are some costs for a new faculty member and some staff members, particularly who will be supporting the registrar and also advising when the students are deemed at risk that they would be contacted about whether this program is a good fit for them. And then with that, AIC is recommending approval.
Thank you. Chair entertains a motion to approve the staff recommendation.
So moved.
We have a, thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve. Are there any questions or comments? All in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, like sign. The program is approved. Second program from the University of Alabama, presented by Dr. McGill, will be the Bachelor of Science in Data Science.
Thank you, Chairman. We've seen quite a few data science proposals coming through, and this is the first of two that we have at this meeting. This one, as a Bachelor of Science in Data Science, is somewhat unique insofar as the resources are being shared between the College of Arts and Sciences, Department of Mathematics, and the College of Business, Department of Computer Science. Both departments are seeking or will be offering coursework as part of this, and will in turn have an additional faculty appointments in areas of specialization related to data science, along with a support faculty member. And there's sufficient student demand attested by enrollments in existing minors in mathematical statistics and optimization, and also business analytics. And the institutions that, even though there are other institutions with data science degrees, it seems that this growing field and the potential information industry in Alabama merits additional programs. We are proposing one extra post-implementation condition, which has to do with the current Bachelor of Science in Mathematics. It's already, doing fine, but because this program would potentially split off some of the students who are in a concentration in that degree, we're proposing to monitor the viability for that program as well. And with that, staff is recommending approval.
Thank you. Chair entertains a motion to approve the staff recommendation.
So moved.
We have a motion
Second.
and we have a second. Are there any questions or comments? All in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, like sign. The program is approved. The third program from the University of Alabama, presented by Dr. McGill, will be Bachelor of Science in Business Statistics.
Thank you, Chairman. And this program, I really do see as kind of a partner program to the one that we just reviewed with the data science. This one would be solely housed within the College of Business. And the analytic focus really is going to be on business statistics. There are quite a few other institutions who offer similar programs in business statistics also through their colleges of business. And you can imagine that it includes the pre-professional coursework in business and so forth. So you will be leading toward careers in management analysts and market research analysts versus the kind of hardcore data science occupations. Needless to say, all of those occupations are growing in the state, and so there is sufficient demand for another program. This proposed degree would basically reorganize or repackage existing offerings within the College of Business, and so it is not proposing any new expenses or new coursework, and staff is recommending approval of the program.
Thank you. Chair entertains a motion to approve the staff recommendation.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve. Are there any questions or comments? All in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, like sign. The program is approved. The next program presented by Dr. McGill will be from the University of Alabama, Birmingham, Bachelor of Arts in Writing and Media.
Thank you, Chairman. This program is offered through the Department of English. And we often see in other institutions, the College of communications and media journalism, that sort of thing. But this one at UAB is coming out of the College of Arts and Sciences, as I mentioned, the Department of English. They're looking to combine two existing concentrations under their Bachelor's of Arts in English, which are the professional writing and creative writing, into a single degree focused on writing and media. So you can imagine the communications focus of this is more on communicating to the public and a broader audience. UAB has noted that it has some relationships with Adobe as a creative campus, and this would allow some of their English or communications oriented students to leverage those resources. They're proposing only 2 new courses, and every student in the program would have a work-based learning experience through their capstone internship that would embed them in certain community or business-focused projects. The program is proposing 2 new faculty members and a part-time staff member to help administer the program. And with that, staff is recommending approval.
Thank you. Chair entertains a motion to approve the staff recommendation.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Are there any questions or comments? All in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, like sign. The program is approved. The second program from the University of Alabama at Birmingham, presented by Dr. McGill, will be the Master of Science in Global Health.
Thank you, Chairman. So this program is related to the field of public health. UAB already has masters in public health, as do 3 other institutions. But within the field of public health, this would be a research-focused degree that is less on communicating about health concerns, creating health policy, and more about the research into factors that impact health around the globe. There are some coursework in global public health and other institutions and as part of development practice, or as part of sociology or anthropology curriculum. This would really be a singular program within the state. UAB is already accredited through its School of Public Health by the Council of Education for Public Health. So this degree would not be specially accredited, but it would fall under that School of Public Health umbrella. In order to make the most of resources that UAB has to offer, they propose this program as a joint partnership between the School of Medicine and the School of Public Health. They've noted that many of the medical students are interested in global public health and have not had a pathway to include some of that public health coursework in their training. And so this new proposed program would allow them to do that and create dual degree pathways that would support both the medical school and the School of Public Health. They have already proposed some graduate certificate in this field, and that enrollments in that graduate certificate have gone up significantly over the past few years. And that gives you a good sense of how the demand is going to continue. There are thesis and thesis tracks, some modest expenses for a new faculty member, a new support faculty member that will require a little bit of reallocation, but the program is expected to become self-sustaining by year 3. And with that, staff is recommending approval.
Thank you. Chair entertains a motion to approve the staff recommendation.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Are there any comments or questions? All in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, like sign. The program is approved. The next program presented by Dr. McGill will be from the University of West Alabama, Master of Education in Dyslexia Therapy.
Thank you, Chairman. We're coming into the home stretch here. All right, the University of West Alabama does have representatives here if we have any questions. The Master of Education in Dyslexia Therapy is something they've had in the works for at least 3 or 4 years. They've been pursuing partnership with an institution in Mississippi, William Carey University, which is based out of Hattiesburg, that has been offering their program offsite at UWA's campus to serve the need for dyslexia therapy training. And some of the increased interest and need for this is coming out of the Alabama Literacy Act that was passed back in 2019. That act was obviously focused on raising literacy rates, but it was very specific in recognizing the success that Mississippi has had in using dyslexia therapy as a methodology for improving literacy. And the University of West Alabama, being so close to Mississippi, has been drawing on their expertise to create their own program. Most of the coursework for this program is organized around internships. Those internships recognize that these are largely going to be educators who already have a job in the education system and would continue to do their job to work-based learning to reach their dyslexia therapy. A lot of the training has to do with progress that students are making in the classroom and active applications of the dyslexia therapy methods. There are 11 others of support for this program. There are some costs for a full-time, part-time faculty member in order for graduates of this program to receive their certification to practice as academic language therapists. This program will need accreditation through the International Dyslexia Association, and so we placed that extra post-implementation condition on it. Most of the coursework will be offered online with some potential for 100% online. And again, as I said, most of the students are going to be educators who are using their everyday practice to help fulfill some of the requirements for the degree. With that, staff is recommending approval.
Thank you. Chair entertains a motion to approve the staff recommendation.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Are there any questions or comments?
I have a quick question. Do you have any data on how many educators there are now that are this specialized in the state with, as it relates to dyslexia?
Right, so who have this
Yeah.
certified academic language therapist? I do know that the University of Alabama offers this certification that is not embedded within a degree program. So there have been some production from the University of Alabama. But I'll have to ask my colleagues. You all know how many of these certified therapists there are?
That's okay. That's great.
Yeah, suffice it to say, they're in demand.
Obviously, I can say there's a need. Okay.
That's what
It's not winning.
Any additional questions? All in favor of approving, say aye. And all opposed, like sign. The program is approved. The second program from the University of West Alabama, presented by Dr. McGill, be a Master of Science in Data Science.
Right, so this is our second data science program of the day. This one is slightly different. Obviously, it's a master's program, where the one we heard before was a bachelor's. But it is coming out of the College of Business, and therefore has a kind of core focus on business analytics. That's why it has a different CIP code than the other program that we reviewed. That means it is, more reflective of the faculty background. There isn't quite as much of the mathematics coursework as we saw in the other program. And the program obviously is intended to prepare students for those in-demand fields as management analysts and market research analysts, data analysts. It's going to be offered 100% online. There will be a need for modest startup investments from external funding sources and some internal reallocation, but the program will be self-sustaining by year 4. And staff is recommending approval for this program.
Thank you. Chair entertains a motion to approve the staff recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Are there any questions or comments? All in favor of approving, say aye. And all opposed, like sign. The program approved. The next program presented by Mrs. White. Oh, thank you, Dr. McGill.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Our next program presented by Mrs. White will be from the Central Alabama Community College, an Associate of Applied Science in Marine Technology.
Good morning. Thank you, Commissioner Bolden. I do want to note before I start that there aren't, we have several representatives from the community college system here today, so if you have questions, they are here to answer those. Okay, the first program for Central Alabama will prepare graduates for employment as motorboat mechanics and service technicians. Central Community College is located in an area that includes Lake Martin and several other regional waterways. So the forecast data shows that this particular area has higher demand for this type of program than the national average. The program will include 3 embedded and stackable short-term certificates in marine technician fundamentals, marine technician service, and an MSFC certificate. The program will also incorporate work-based learning over the final 3 semesters of the program and a required minimum of 15 hours a week. Students will earn MSSC certificates in safety, quality practices and measurement, manufacturing processes and production, and maintenance awareness, which will qualify them to test for the certified production technician credential. Graduates will also be eligible to test for the NCC-ER credential. The program projects no startup costs to support the program over the first 7 years, and funds needed to cover 1 additional faculty member will be covered by the $622,000 generated in tuition over the first 7 years. And staff is recommending approval of this program.
Thank you. Chair entertains a motion to approve the staff recommendation.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Are there any questions or comments? I do have a question. What is the average salary for these new graduates in this program?
That's a good question.
Most of our students are starting out to bring us around $17, $18 an hour, because there's such a need for it.
Great, thank you so much. All right, were there any other questions or comments?
Yeah, just one comment, 101 job openings, is that correct? Right now, wow. So definitely a need.
Yes, thank you for that. All in favor of approving, say aye, and all opposed, like sign. The program is approved. Our next program presented by Mrs. White will be from Enterprise State Community College, an Associate of Applied Science in Registered Nursing.
And this program will prepare graduates for employment as registered nurses and fulfill growing need in workforce region 6, where Enterprise is located. Students will be required to complete preceptor hours during their clinicals with experienced nurses that meet a community college and ABN standard, Alabama Board of Nursing Standard. There are numerous community colleges in the state that offer nursing programs, but given the high demand for nurses and right now the high cost of gas for traveling, there's justification for adding a new program in this portion of the state. Enterprise will seek accreditation with the Accreditation Commission on Education in Nursing and become approved by the Alabama Board of Nursing as an approved associate degree program. Graduates will be eligible to take the NCLEX RN exam, and after passing, will be able to practice as a registered nurse. The proposal is projecting that $2.2 million in startup costs over the first 7 years will be required. The majority of this will be used to hire 2 new full-time faculty members and several part-time staff, clinicians and lab instructors. The program is expected to generate almost $900,000 in tuition and will be supplemented from by reallocations from $1.3 million of institutional reserves and also possible funding from federal Perkins funds and local sources. Staff is recommending approval of this program.
Thank you. Chair entertains a motion to approve the staff recommendation. Second. We have a motion and a second to approve. Are there any questions or comments? All in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, like sign. The program is approved. Our next program presented by Mrs. White will be from the Lurleen B. Wallace Community College, an Associate of Applied Science in Salon and Spa Management.
This program will prepare graduates to manage full-service salons and spas and will include extensive instruction in the cosmetic arts. There are several similar programs throughout the state, but if approved, this will be the only program in the Wiregrass region. The college currently offers a 52 credit hour certificate in cosmetology, a 28 credit hour short-term certificate in aesthetics, and a 24 credit hour short-term certificate in nail technology. The existing cosmetology programs have shown 50 to 60% increases, enrollment increases in the last 2 years, which shows sufficient demand for this degree. This program will build on those existing certificates in addition to the general education courses that will be added. It will also include a course in entrepreneurship for those wanting to manage a salon and a 3 credit hour internship. Graduates will be prepared to sit for licensure with the Alabama Board of Cosmetology after completion. The program will require no new funds to establish because of the existing certificate offerings, and it will allow students that are in the existing certificate programs to continue on to an associate degree if they so choose. The college is projecting $225,000 in tuition will be generated over the first 7 years of the program. Staff is recommending approval of this program.
Thank you. Chair entertains a motion to approve the staff recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve. Are there any questions or comments? All in favor of approving, say aye. And all opposed, like sign. The program is approved. Our next program presented by Mrs. White will be from the Northwest Shoals Community College, an Associate of Applied Science and Medical Laboratory Technician.
All right, this program will prepare graduates for employment as medical laboratory technicians, which are included on the statewide in-demand occupations list. 10 local and regional healthcare facilities submitted letters of support attesting to the need for this program and ensured that there will be plenty of clinical sites available for these students. The closest 2 community college MLT programs are 65 miles and 74 miles away from the Northwest Shoals campus. And according to their local healthcare partners, that is not sufficient to meet the needs of their community. The college will seek accreditation through the National Accrediting Agency for Clinical Laboratory Sciences, and once accredited, graduates will be eligible to sit for the Medical Laboratory Technician Certification exam offered by the American Society for Clinical Pathology. Certification is not required for this career, but in this state, but it is preferred. The college is projecting $1.4 million in new funds over the first 7 years, the majority of which will be used to hire a program director for the program and an additional full-time faculty member. It is expected to generate $338,000 through tuition and will require $1.1 million in supplemental funding over the 7-year period. That funding will primarily come from institutional reserves, offset by external grant funds. Staff is recommending approval of this program.
Thank you. Chair entertains a motion to approve the staff recommendation.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Are there any questions or comments? All in favor of approving, say aye. And all opposed, like sign. Program is approved. Next, items 1 through 11 are normally accepted or not accepted by the commission as a whole. Chair entertains a motion to approve the items collectively.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Are there any questions or comments? All in favor of approving, say aye. And all opposed, like sign. The information items are accepted. Next, our chair entertains a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, we are adjourned.
Ready to go.